Hey, welcome. So happy it's Monday. It's my favorite day of the week because I get to do these Journeys Webcasts. So I'm Allan, Karl, your host. Looking forward. I've got a very cool guest today. I'm so excited that we were able to arrange and get somebody to tune in from Nova Scotia actually today. Hey, but just a few points of business. I want to explain a little bit about the platform for those of you. In fact, I'm going to put up a poll now. I'm curious to see how many of you have been on a Journeys webcast before, if this is your first time. So I'll stick that up there. But in the sidebar to the right of the screen, you should have a little chat column. And please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions during the webcast today, at the very bottom of that column where you type in your comment, you can see there is a little icon that says chat mode. Well, if you click on that, you can switch it to question mode, and it'll flag it so that Ayngelina and I can see which of you are asking some questions. But I want to just kind of check in with everyone. How are you feeling? Here we are in the United States, 1 week from a very important presidential election. Early voting has started in most states. I'm if not all, and I encourage you, if you haven't voted yet, take advantage of the early voting, so you don't have to contend with big crowds at the polls there next Tuesday. But how are you feeling? What is the temperature like in your environment? I know on the East Coast and in the North. In fact, I had one of my colleagues sent a photograph from Minnesota yesterday, and it's like all of this white stuff is on the ground. Can you believe it? It's snowing. And here I'm in San Diego at 73 degrees. So, you know, the coronavirus, the sequestered, the, lock in place and quarantine, is still very much important now because our cases here in the United States are going through the roof. The good news is it seems the death rate is not going up, but still we are having the spread go a lot further. And there is a big warning, if you follow the news, that this winter could be very dark. Anyway, I always like to say that, in fact, I was just talking about this, about how in these crazy times, I mean, I haven't left my town here since February. And for those of you who know me, this is very unusual. I don't like to sit still. But here I found have more time with my cats, I guess. Now there's a second one. Yeah, I know. It's ready for adoption, by the way. I am fostering it. I promise myself I'm not going to be the crazy cat guy. But anyway, I focused more on what I'm learning and discovering. Time with the cats. I've had a garden this year. I'm getting to do this webcast. I've been writing some music. I'm working on a new book. So the time has been here useful. What have you found? What have you discovered? And many people, especially at the beginning of this, had took up new hobbies, maybe started cooking more, maybe did plant a garden, did more jigsaw puzzles, whatever it is. Focus on what, you're learning and what you're gaining rather than what you're lost. Anyway, I want to tell you a little bit about Ayngelina Brogan, my guest today. She publishes one of the most watched food and travel blogs. She shares the delicious food of the world, which is big to me, and shows people how they can cook it at home. So her story is interesting because in her mid-30s, Ayngelina took off. She left behind the comfort of a lucrative career, a boyfriend, an apartment, and a plethora of good friends. Her journey first took her to Latin America, where she hoped to find inspiration and to nourish a growing appetite. Her travels inspired her to talk about change inspiration, to create the popular blog Bacon is Magic. Her adventure evolved into a new job and career as the site soon was recognized as one of the top culinary travel sites in North America. Since she published her first post 10 years ago, we're on a 10-year anniversary with Bacon and Magic. The site has been named a top 10 food travel site on USA Today, featured in Grazia UK, named the Foodista by Glamour Paris, and a top travel blog to discover in Huffington Post. She not only writes for her own blog, Bacon is Magic, but her writing also appears in Huffington Post, USA Today, Glam, Eater.com, and I'm sure many others. She'll tell us more about it. She's an award-winning Canadian food and travel writer and a nomad. And now, suddenly, she finds herself taking time to rediscover her own backyard, taking refuge in the nearly COVID-free bubble of Nova Scotia and the environs. Come on, join me, Angelina. Come on into the room. There you are. Let's see if we can get this down. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing fantastic. I'm happy to be connecting to the to our northern neighbors. What's going on in Nova Scotia?
Well, this morning it was -3 degrees Celsius when I woke up. So that was kind of the most newsworthy thing of the day. And so winter is coming.
Oh my. Yeah.
I know.
I saw the snow pictures start coming through, and a big snowstorm in the Rocky Mountains today. So yeah, I'm in San Diego, so I'm pretty safe. But today it's very blustery and windy. The Santa Ana winds are going crazy, and there's just north of me where I used to live, actually, before I went off on my crazy journeys in Orange County. 60,000 people have been evacuated because of yet another fire, the Silverado fire. So, that's.
Wow.
So explain what when we were in the green room, you were telling me that the way Canada is operating the travel between provinces, between provinces and territories. What's it like for you?
So I'm in Nova Scotia, and I'm part of what we're calling the Atlantic bubble. And so those are the 4 maritime provinces, the small ones: Newfoundland, PEI, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. And very early on, I would say probably in April, we basically shut down our borders to everyone. So there was no inter-provincial travel at all. And part of that reason is that we have an aging population on this side, and we just thought in order to manage things, because we have an aging population and also an issue with access to doctors, we don't have enough here. The best thing to do to make it manageable was just to kind of everybody is locked down. And we did that for quite a while. And then in June, I believe, because all of the 4 provinces had everything under control and were in single digits for coronavirus, we opened up this small bubble of Atlantic Canada. So we can travel freely within these 4 provinces without needing to quarantine. So if you come to Canada, you must quarantine for 14 days. So you have to stay in one place in 14 days. And actually our CMP will call you. And in some cases they stop by. So that's across the country. But within our 4 provinces, we don't need to do that. So if you wanted to take a weekend trip to the island, you could do so because we're kind of all in this. Our 4 provinces don't even make up half of another province. So it's been nice in that we're small. The geography is very different. Even our cultures are, similar, but somewhat different. And so since June, we have been able to safely travel a little adrift. We could go to some places. So I feel like it is still the safest place in North America to be, which is fantastic. And I think we've been very lucky. And so we are still in single digit cases. And in Nova Scotia, our current cases, I think we might have 5. What they are, people that have traveled from away have come in and were in quarantine when they were discovered to have had it. So for us, it's been a real testament to the numbers don't matter as much because we're actually managing the problem right now, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Very lucky. Very lucky.
Yeah. Very lucky. It is all about management, isn't it? It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we had mandatory masks for a really long time. So New Brunswick did not. They just started doing that. But I would say, having gone from non-mandatory to mandatory, if anybody is wondering what it's like, it's actually easier when everyone wears a mask, because you don't know, should I put it on? Should I not put it on? Or get angry at some people who are or not. Like, everyone just has one on all the time. And then you learn, I need to keep one in my car or in my pocket or just like in my purse, just in case I forget one. And then they're at all the stores and everything to put on. So in the end, what's been great about it is you also realize what kind of mask do you like? Do you want a disposable one? And now there's all of these like different kind of crazy designs. And so everyone shares their tips. And of course, I have lots of like food related masks with watermelons and spicy peppers and things. So it's just like we've kind of adapted to it, and it's not a big deal to wear one anymore.
No, not at all. Hey, Michael, who's been on this webcast, he's watched several of them. He's from Montreal, just tuned in. He says it's yeah, he says motorcycle season is ending here. It's 4 Celsius there in Montreal today, so he's a motorcyclist for sure. And shout out from Brian, who is a new I think this might be your first time on the webcast, huh, Brian? Good, welcome. Hey, if you guys introduce yourself over here. Rosemary from the Rockies. I bet you there. She's with a mimosa in hand.
Oh, much more fun than the tea.
Rosemary Carstens is also a travel writer. Yeah, she's tuned in a number of times, so it's kind of good. Great, welcome everybody. So in that little bubble there, where were you before? I mean, you've lived a life. I mean, I say you're up to at least 50 countries almost, or something like that. You know,
I don't even know. I don't count. So I don't count countries. And part of the reason is I would prefer I like Latin America because it's one of the few places that I'm at intermediate Spanish. And so I can actually communicate with people. And so I kind of like to dig deeper into a place rather than going to places. It's just harder when you can't communicate. There's just something really lovely about being able to like share a joke with someone. And so I think my number of countries really stopped rising probably a couple of years ago because I kept going back to Mexico and Cuba. And I just really love Latin America so much. But for the last 2 years, I've been based out of Havana, Cuba. And so when I'm not traveling for work or the site, I've been there. And so I was there when I was actually in Canada when coronavirus first hit. And went to Cuba anyway. I think I was there in February because, you know, at that time, everyone was saying, oh, it's like the cold, the common flu is worse than this. And so I went down and I was there for 3 weeks and they had 4 cases come in from Italy. And then it just seemed to like kind of explode very quickly. And our prime minister told all of the Canadians to come home. And so I thought, well, I guess I'll go back home. If the Wi-Fi is better there, I'll hang out there until July and I'll come back down. So very unexpected. I did not think this was what, 2020 would look like everyone else.
Huh. That's, yeah, no, if we had a crystal ball. Hey, you know, since you're a big fan, I had some BC wine in my cellar, but what's happened in COVID, Corona and lockdown is I've been drinking a lot more. I mean, a lot more wine.
Me too.
And so I have, speaking of, we'll expand this so we can get a good shot here. Okay, it's from Argentina. So this is a
nice.
And it's Altos Los Hormigas. And you know what hormigas are. To name your winery after ants.
Yeah.
But it's a appellation specific. It's called Guadalajara, or it should be higher. Oh, wow. Yeah. And it's a Malbec, so it's like a single vineyard Malbec. And what are you drinking today for the webcast?
Me? I have turmeric tea.
Okay. Turmeric tea. Well,
we had a small food and wine festival on the weekend. So I had a lot of wine there from Italy. So now I'm on to tea. Which I will do for a few days. Yeah.
Tea is a good thing. It's very therapeutic, and it's
yes. Actually, probably only tea until tomorrow because I have a Zoom call with Ireland Tourism to talk about Halloween in Ireland, and they sent me a bottle of whiskey for the Zoom call. I was like, "Oh, you know me so well. This is going to be the best Zoom call." So I can't do that every night. So tea tonight.
So Irish whiskey tomorrow. That'll be really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope so.
Well, here's to Canada, our neighbors in the north, and here's to connecting. Angelina and I this is the first time we've actually talked and face to face. So we've exchanged emails over the years, since back in early, I think 2013. I forget where you
It was
were.
a long time ago.
Yeah, when I was coming out with my book, and I'd uncovered you and your blog, and being a global food hunter, as you like to say, I was excited to share my project with you, and how it became a passion project, because publishers, turned down, this is not a good idea. Well, we're in our 4th printing, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
But tell me, how did Bacon is Magic start? From deciding the name, and this travel inspiration turned into blog.
Sure. So in 2009, I had always traveled. So it first started when I was 16. My mother sent me to France in a traveling school for the summer. After university, I went to the Philippines on an international internship through a Canadian international agency. And, I was one of those people who always maxed out my vacation, was always trying to go, went to Southeast Asia a few more times. And I wanted to, every time I went on a trip, that you meet the people who are doing the long-term travel who don't have an end date. And I was so jealous. And so in 2009, I would have been 30 or 31. And I just thought, wow, once you are in your 30s, I was very far along in my career. I was working at an ad agency in Toronto and was being groomed to be senior management, and basically told, like, if you want to be the president of this place someday, you can be. But along the way, I had all of these lessons where I saw, how much the president worked, nights and weekends and on vacation and all of these things. And I did not want that. So it was interesting. Those were great lessons to have later down the road. I also didn't want to work for myself. So, it just goes to show you where you start is not where you're going to end. But also at that time, I thought, well, I'm in my 30s. Like, if I'm going to have kids, this dream of being able to take this big trip is never going to happen. So if I want to go, like, time is ticking. I need to go now. And I didn't have this yearning to have kids, but I thought, one of these birthdays, like, the clock is going to start ticking, and I'm going to feel it, and I'm going to want to have children. And so I thought, I'm going to have to do it now. So I decided to pay off all of my student debt and to start raising or saving money to go on this trip. And I figured if I saved $20,000, then I could probably travel for a year or two. And at that time, I read all of these like daily blogs from people doing these things, and they were posting, they were living on $1,000 a month easily. And so I thought, I'd never been to Latin America. My background is like 3rd generation Italian Irish, but people had told me you can travel down Latin America easily for $1,000 a month and you'll have money left over. So I thought, that's fantastic. My original plan was to go down, go from Mexico to Argentina, and then go through over to Africa, and then up, and then eventually I wanted to end in Mongolia, because I was fascinated by that they still have such a nomadic population. And so, it's still parts of it are still very untouched, and that really intrigued me. And Bacon is Magic. When I started the site, nobody was making a living having a blog. People were doing it for fun. My site looked very different back then. It was like on black with lime green accents. And I had a Flickr account where I put all my pictures in. And we only had Twitter back then. That's the only way, like, really you could connect with other people. And even then, that was very new. And so Bacon is Magic was a joke with my friends that whenever I cooked, a lot of my dishes always had some element of bacon in it. So I had pancetta in my tomato sauce, or I'd make, like a minestrone, but it would have a little bit of chorizo in it. And so I always told people, you just need a little bit of a flavor of pork, and it just makes everything so much better, and nobody really knows it. So that's why Bacon is Magic. Now, not all the world feels that way, but a lot of the world does. So that's how I started with the site. And I really did not have any intention of it being anything, but I think I've kept a journal all of my life, and I'm a little bit of a type A person. And at that time, because there weren't a lot of bloggers, it was just a really small community of us. There are people around the world that when you're doing something that is outside the very narrow norm of people that you're with, and you find other people online doing the same thing, you become close very quickly. Mm-hmm. And so there are people, well, I mean, we've been talking since, 2013. The person who is my developer for my website now, I have never met in person. He's in Australia, and I've known him since 2010, and I consider him, like I've seen him like get married, have kids, like all of these things. So there are a lot of people that I've known for a very long time through this. And with that, I think I was able to develop skills and use what I had learned working at an ad agency and working with brands and things to keep this going and to see social media evolve into what it is today, which is so different.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, and when I first took off and did my kind of thing, I did 3 years, and that was in 2005 through basically 2009.
Yeah,
I had a broken leg in between there, and yeah, nobody was doing it. And it's interesting too. And I would write almost every day, practically every day, and it's great to go back and relive those things. If I wasn't writing, I might not remember all of those things, which is why it's so important to journal, as you know. But back then people were reading the blog. There was really no Facebook. I mean, Facebook had just started, I think, in 2007, in the midst of it going around. Twitter had just started too, and I was very early in adopting those. But what we didn't do a lot because of the technology is video. And now video, it seems like people aren't reading as much, and they're absorbing more visual motion content and sound. Do you find that, or how much of your bacon and magic is still the traditional kind of journalistic blogging covering versus now creating content with video?
So video has also changed so much. I've been wanting to shoot video on a regular, consistent basis, probably for maybe the last 6 years. And it just seemed very overwhelming. And, once you start a website and you kind of figure it out and how it works, it's very easy to do, but it's time consuming. But to shoot video and to become a beginner all again is difficult because you have this vision for what you want, but you don't have the skills or experience to get there. And so in previous years, I shot video and I worked with an editor who was amazing. So I know you have my India video. I did not edit that. He took all of my footage. I shot that actually with my Google Pixel, which is incredible, again, looking back. But all of my video, I hired someone else to do. And so sometimes I'd be like, here's just stuff, like make it look good. And then in recent years, I kept saying, this is going to be the year I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I just always came up with an excuse not to do it, or I was too busy doing other things. And then finally this year, when I came home, I said, all right, I'm going to do it. I am actually now going to commit to learning video, because there's no better time to learn a new skill than when you're just like trapped inside and it's like you and YouTube. And so I thought, I'm going to do it. And the way that I did it is very unconventional in that I actually pitched to our local provincial tourism board to pay me to shoot and edit video. And so I thought, I don't have the skill, but I do have the experience of sharing a story, and I had the enthusiasm. And so I started, the first video that I did was a very small town in Nova Scotia that Nova Scotians don't even go to because it once had a ferry that goes to Maine and it doesn't go there anymore. So Nova Scotians are like, why would you go there? Like, what is there to do there? I still get that all the time from people who really know the province. They're like, well, why would you go to Yarmouth? Anyway, and that first video had 95,000 views.
Wow.
And so it was just a time, I think, at that first video, I haven't had one like that. Like nothing's taken off like that since. But I really felt something it was the first time I had traveled. I really felt something for discovering my own province and going somewhere and realizing that, tons of Canadians go all around the world looking for like this authentic Italian fishing village, or, lots of people go down to Mexico and they hear there's this like little fishing village, but really it's just a tourist trap. And here we have this town, which is like literally an authentic fishing village, which is not expensive, has amazing seafood. Like you see the fishermen coming in and all the traps and seagulls and everything. But it wasn't until this time that I really could see the beauty of it and realize, wow, that's only been 2 hours from me all my life, and I've never been there. And so that video really inspired me to keep going. And to realize also, when I edited that video, there was so much that I thought was wrong with it, like the sound and just the angles and the color. And there were things I wanted to do that I didn't know how to do. But sometimes it's better to have something done than perfect. You just have to get it done. And people said to me, they didn't notice all the mistakes that I made or that I felt that I made. And so it really inspired me to keep going. And it also made me realize that while I might not technically be the best, and I don't have the editing skills that I had to pay someone, in order to do this regularly and to be able to afford it, I would have to learn how to do it myself. And so that's what I've been doing. And I love it. I feel like it has breathed new life into sharing travel stories, because I can I'm not telling people what to think. I'm showing them, and they can take away what it is for themselves. And I am really excited to, when I can go elsewhere, like Cuba, and instead of explaining what things are like there, to actually show people what it is and allow Cubans also to tell their story instead of me always narrating with my own bias of what something is like. So I'm just really excited to do video, and I watched lots of it. And I know a lot of people think that it's only young people that are consuming video, but like my mom is on YouTube all the time watching tons of things. So I think in general, written word will always have its place, but there's just something really special about sharing video, which I really love.
Yeah, I agree with that. The opening video, which everybody who was on the webcast early see that a lot of that footage was shot on old with actual tape, with still digital. But every year I go out and I shoot lots of video, and it ends up just bulging on my hard drives. And one of the things I've done on the in the COVID times here is to resurrect that footage and see if I can make a story out of it and share some of this, because as a solo traveler like you, and I didn't have the luxury, other than when we were filming my TV show, of having a crew and hiring people. So it's always more challenging and a little more time consuming to capture the good footage. But I have probably edited and I've had these skills, and they've gotten better. Of course, the more you do it, the more you go. And coming back to your point, about you had mistakes you wanted to do, and there's a phrase that goes something like, "Don't let perfection be the enemy of the good." Or I don't. Does anybody out there know what that one is? Maybe Rosemary, that. But that's what happens. Some people just never do it because they keep saying, "I got to fix it. I got to fix it." So then what happens is, it just sits in the hard drive and nobody sees it. And you got 95,000 views. So that's fantastic. And I've found that going through this stuff, it brings back memories. And I realized, that's not so bad. I mean, people are watching it, not in huge numbers. I haven't had numbers like you've had, but that's pretty cool. The other thing you said about that little fishing village, Yarmouth is kind of what I was saying at the beginning, is discovering, learning something new. And for us people with wanderlust and this seemingly cabin fever, look at you've got this cool little fishing village you don't even need to get a passport out for.
Right.
And I think that's good. And you've been doing this. You've been doing this quite a bit. I want to actually share a video because you've been working with the tourism boards within your own Atlantic bubble there, and going out and finding new things. Tell us about. I've never heard of Charlottetown, but we're going to play a little video of this and how this relationship is working, and where do you think it's going to go?
So Charlottetown is the capital of Prince Edward Island. And I worked with them this summer. My idea with all of these tourism boards was, why don't we just give people ideas of things to do that don't cost a lot of money? So you don't have to go for a big fine dining meal. You can just take a road trip, and whether it be a day trip or in case of Prince Edward Island, it was a little bit longer, but just to enjoy, beaches and getting a bite to eat and little coffee like spots, because right now that's what we're all craving is we just need a little bit. We don't need this big adventure, but like just going on a small adventure, is enough. But here, at least in Nova Scotia, because Prince Edward Island is right next to us, we always go and do the same thing. We don't look beyond it. Just like I had never been to Yarmouth. It's 2 hours away. I've never been there. And so it was like, why don't we just show people other things that they can do? So not the most popular things that you see everywhere else, but just all the just little things. And so Charlottetown was a video I shot just to show people what to do in a day. Here's, cool. Here are some thought starters.
So this is some of Angelina's new discoveries here during COVID. And as I play this, I'll suggest to turn your mic off so we don't have any echo. But here we go. This is Angelina, Bacon is Magic.
Just landed in Charlottetown. I'm here for 2 days, exploring the best things to do in Charlottetown, and I'm going to warn you, there's going to be a lot of food and drink.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun.
Starting the day off right with breakfast at Receiver Coffee on the Water Street patio. I know I've said before I don't like breakfast, but wow, this completely changed my mind. Or if you like dessert for breakfast, the apple crisp French toast is fantastic too. If you're looking for a tasty souvenir to bring home, don't miss the downtown farmers market. They close off Queen Street and there are some fantastic finds.
Someday they'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Founders Food Hall is a great addition to the city. Not only are there interesting places to eat and lots of little shops and also craft beer, but also my friend Allan told me I had to go try the vegan moules mac.
Wow. This is really good. You can tell a little bit that it's a meatless burger, but it's really good. The flavor is good, and actually the texture is really good too.
And of course, no trip to PEI is complete without Cow's ice cream. PEI is home to some great craft beer, and you'll find it in all of the restaurants. An Upstreet Craft Brewing and PEI Brewing Company just outside the downtown core. Not a beer drinker? Don't worry. At Slaymaker and Nichols, the cocktails are as beautiful as the decor. One of my favorite new developments in Charlottetown is Peaks Quay. There's so many cute shops and great places to eat. I love the energy along the water. One of the most unique aspects is the floating food court marina. I've heard Nimrod's has fantastic pizza, and one of my biggest regrets of this trip is that I didn't get a chance to go. Stopping into Kettle Black is a must. I love everything about this coffee shop, so much so that this is my last stop. I'm sadly on my way home.
Forgot to turn my mic on. So you're exploring your own backyard and eating and drinking a lot. What could be wrong with that?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate in that my family lives in Nova Scotia, and I lived here until just after university. And then I moved to Toronto. So a lot of things have changed, but then I've also just been able to discover places that maybe I would not have appreciated when I was younger. And then I go back now. I mean, right now during the fall colors, it's stunning. And I think maybe 10 years ago, I just would have thought, oh, it's getting cold.
You know, it was 64 degrees this morning here, and that's Fahrenheit, of course. I don't know, and I thought that was cold. So I'm in my own little bubble of San Diego. Yes. That for sure. You know, coming back to your talking about, yes, you love Latin America. You've been kind of HQ in Cuba for the last couple of years. I'm fortunate that 35 miles from here, I can be in Baja California. Have you been there?
I have, yeah. It's beautiful down there.
You know, last week, my guest, for those of you who are tuning into this, if you didn't see last week, I had Scott Koenig from a gringo in Mexico, another food and travel blogger. And he is, that was a lot of fun too, but right over the border here. But you know, when you say that it's to need to communicate, and to the fact that you've picked up in your travels for over the 10 years to learn how to speak Spanish as I have, I can do a little Portuguese, and then I just have phrases elsewhere. And it always is a bit of a challenge. And I often say to people, it says, you know, if I found that magic bottle that washed up on the beach and I rubbed it and a genie popped out and gave me 3 wishes, my first wish would be to speak and understand every language in the world. And, you know, that would be bliss for me. You know, I'm fortunate, as we are, that, you know, English is widely spoken, but you still miss that opportunity in the rural parts where the people haven't had the education in order to learn that second language.
You should go to Cuba. Not a lot of people there speak English. I mean, outside the resorts, none of my friends speak English at all. I mean, they know a few phrases, just like, you know, we would know a few phrases in different languages, but it really pushed me because there was no way there's no way to get around. I mean, people are lovely and they try to, you know, hand signals and all of that, but otherwise it can be a difficult country for people if they want to travel independently, just because the level of English is very low. And then if you can only get by on English, you're definitely going to pay a lot more for everything. Yeah,
it's definitely on my wish list for sure to go to Cuba. I've always wanted to go to Cuba. And because I travel mostly by motorcycle, you know, the islands tend to be a little bit more challenging to get to, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm one of the things I think I've learned is my motorcycle is sitting in Athens, Greece right now in a garage in its own kind of quarantine. So for the last 5 years, I've been exploring, you know, all of Scandinavia, and then I did the Baltics and then the Balkans, and then circumnavigated last summer the Black Sea, and love Eastern Europe. It's just become a new eye-opening for me there. But I wanted to kind of come back to your blog, because it is your business. You are making a living. You're doing something which a lot of people wish they could do, or say that I would, you know, how hard is it? And has that commitment to being, this is your job. And I know you have other writers too on there. You've got a team. So how's it working for you? And what thoughts would you give to somebody who, you know, regardless of whether it be a travel or food blog, but just about running a business online like that?
Well, I actually am bringing on a new writer who has a site. She's a graphic designer, but she wants to turn her site into something that she could potentially make a living off of. And so I've had some conversations with her, and I think the most important thing is actually to treat it like a business. So I told her before I bring her on as a writer and then help mentor her and her site, the first thing she needs to decide is what is her business plan. Because I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to write and someone will discover me and I'll make money. And yes, that's possible. But it's the same thing as, it's kind of the 2.0 of when people thought, I'll just write some memoirs and someone will find me and then they'll give me a book deal. And it doesn't really work like that. So I always tell people, like, you have to sit down and think about, like, what are your goals? It doesn't have to be your profession. Sometimes I would really love if it was just a hobby and I didn't have to worry about the business side of things. But I also feel very fortunate that I am able to turn, what I'm passionate about into something that I can share with the world. And that is basically my job. So I said to her, to think about, like, there are so many different ways to make money on a site, whether you do it through advertising or sponsorship, or maybe you run tours, or you recommend tours to other people, or maybe you have a product line that you want to sell, or Patreon is becoming much bigger within the social media world. And so, of course, once I told her to do that, she said, okay, I need more time, because it really is difficult. And I told her, it's not something that it has to be perfect, but you actually have to think about, this isn't just like writing every day. It's, what is the purpose of my writing? What am I going to write about? When I first started my site, it was in 2010. The beauty of it was that no one was making a living. And so it was really a travel diary that I wrote in multiple times a week and just shared what I was doing for the day. That's not something you can do right now. So, just giving a diary is really not useful for other people unless you're also sharing in it. What's in it for them? Like, what are they getting out of it? Maybe you're really funny and it's entertainment. I'm not really funny, so it's not entertainment. So I always have to think about whatever I do and all of these things that I find, how do I share it for people so that they can replicate that? And so I often get offered these very special, like, vacations where they'll, a destination or hotel will, like, create something special that no one else can have. And sadly, I always have to say no. Because if someone can't replicate it, then I'm not going to share. Because who wants to, like, look at me, like, on a balloon and they've created, like, some crazy dinner and it's like, oh, look at my life, it's so amazing. Like, that's not useful for anyone. So now I try to, the whole purpose of my site is really to encourage and inspire people to travel and help them understand that it's not as difficult as they think. So part of the reason I want to share about Cuba is it is a country that can be very difficult to travel in if you don't know how it works. Because whatever we think is the logical way for something to work, it is like the opposite in Cuba. But once you know the rules, it becomes very easy. So that is what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And I think video will really help people understand that, because it is the safest country in the Caribbean and Latin America, and the people are so lovely. Tourism has been opening up and they are so welcoming, especially they love Americans. So I know a lot of Americans are afraid of visiting, but, like, everybody's got a cousin and 2 neighbors that moved there. So people who go there, it's like they walk away and they think it's their favorite place. It's a very, I wouldn't say addicting country, but if you can connect with it, you find you go every year. So I would like to help spread that, because I think, Cubans have a very special culture that a lot of people would enjoy.
And that music. Yeah.
And the music. And I mean, they just have a different way of living that is just really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. So I've got another video that you made. This one is not the India one. I've got this one is there's one of the attendees on here, by the way, and I just didn't realize that till Brian. I'm talking about you, Brian Jones, who is in Orange County. I met him through a wine community. We have a group that we like to eat and drink and taste wines and talk about them.
Amazing.
And he's from Toronto, TO. I didn't even know.
Oh, that's awesome.
So anyway, cool, Brian, that you're here. But this is actually a wine related video Ayngelina made a few years ago. So let's play that and we'll talk about it on the other side there. I mean, Muga, Rhoda. I mean, you went to some top drawer places there.
Let me tell you this story because this is a funny one. That is old. I think that's from 2013. And I was asked to speak at a wine communicators conference in Logroño. And it was because at that time, and even still today, a lot of wine writers talk about points and very technical aspects of wine. And but they don't really talk about the things that the everyday person really loves, you know, like the romantic side of it, the experience, the family story, the history, all of these things. So they asked me to come and kind of give a different perspective of how to talk about wine to broaden the audience beyond, you know, points. Because once you've got like Robert Reed's points, like, do you really need to hear anybody else's technical opinion? You don't. So before the conference, they invited me on this little press trip to go around to the different wineries. And I thought that was great. Like, what an amazing experience. And then they sent me the list of everyone who was going on this trip with me. And it was all master sommeliers, like all of these insane, like world speakers about wine and me. And so I wrote back and I said, I don't know if you really want to have me there because I don't know as much, you know, like I am just the average consumer and you have all of these like very big people from like Greece, the United States, like all over the world. And then me. Anyway, so they said, no, you should come. I had an amazing time. And I've been on a lot of wine press trips with different journalists. And I find the less people know, the snobbier they are. And the more people know, the more relaxed they are. And so on this trip, I mean, we were drinking every day, all day. Like we got up and had breakfast and then we just kept going on. At one point, I knocked over a glass of wine and like the sommeliers from Greece were like, Opa. And then actually on that trip, that was where I learned what corked wine tastes like because it tasted, I think the second day in, I just became very comfortable with sharing the lack of knowledge that I had because I didn't want to pretend that I knew as much as them. Like they would know, obviously.
Of course.
But also I was just very open with people. I mean, after a couple of drinks, like you can tell people like, I shouldn't even really be here. Anyway, but I did learn about what corked wine was because we had corked wine. And then they said, don't pour it out. Like give her, like keep your glass and then bring over the other one. And then I had both of them and I thought, oh, I've had corked wine before. And I just thought that was a flavor. Like,
yeah, that's a great story, Ayngelina, because this has happened to me several times, and out with friends that may not be into wine as much as I am. And if I ever do get a corked wine, and I'll to the server or wherever it happens to be, I'll say, no, don't leave that here. When you bring the new one, as an education, it really is. Because the sad thing is, if people don't know it, they just think it's either a bad wine or, they'll never order it again. And that's
it's like, oh, I don't like that. And then you don't realize as soon as I had it, because people had always explained it to me as like wet newspaper or wet cardboard. That's one thing to say. But then once you have it like that, then you always know like that. Yeah. Once I had it, I was like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that obviously one cool thing about Spanish wine, I mean, right now from different regions as well, it really is a great value wine compared to, California. Our wines are great here, but they've gone off the charts in terms of the pricing, and even in Baja where they're making great wines down right in the Valle de Guadalupe, they're expensive. But Spain still has great quality. They call it the PQR is the wine geek and the price quality ratio, and everything in life actually, but particularly in wine. And Spain is, I think, at the top of that PQR. But let's you're quite a traveler. I've got some photos here that I gleaned from there, and a lot of this is food. And I just like to really, we won't dwell on each one. We're coming up on the hour of this thing, but I want you to talk about, because these are, I think, your photos or from your blog, and share with us what we're looking at, and we'll go. So let me go and make our little icons a little bit smaller for us, and move them maybe up here. There we go. So this is from obviously your website. Let me get to this. I've got to be host and producer here. It's crazy. Anyway, this is the best food around the world, where to find it and how to make it. I love that about you, Ayngelina, is that you actually do have videos on there on how to cook. And I think one of the things about especially in these COVID times, and we're looking at discovering new things, is cooking something and cooking outside your comfort zone, and cooking for yourself. I recently wrote an article. In fact, I'm going to put it up here somewhere here. How can I do that? Do I still have it on here? Yeah, I do. Okay. It's going to be in the offer. It's not really, it's on Medium. And I wrote an article called 13 Rules for Life from a Life on the Road. And one of the rules is actually cook for yourself and cook something that you might go out of. But anyway, let's get into some of these photos. Now, this is actually not your photo. It could be, right? It could be. I mean, we need a little of that, little that pork, as you say. So I don't know if you'll recognize all of these.
I do. Yeah, okay. This is an easy one. This is Cuba. So in Cuba, outside of Havana, there is this little village called Las Terrazas, which is a unique community in that you can't just move there. You have to be invited. It's this eco community where everyone kind of has a role. And it was located on a mountain that was, at one point, coffee plantations from the French who had fled from the Haitian Revolution. A lot of slavery there. And then farming, which had kind of decimated all of the trees. And so after the Cuban Revolution, Fidel ran what was called the Eco Revolution. And within 7 years, I think, or in 10 years, he planted 7 million trees there. So it's actually a UNESCO heritage spot. It's gorgeous. Nobody knows about it. And it's about a 45-minute drive outside of Havana. This is at one of the restaurants. They have 3 restaurants there on site. And This is run by a family, and I think just a really great example of country style food that you can get in Cuba. And a lot of people want to know where to eat in Havana, but the best food is actually out in the countryside. It's very plain. Like we've got some beans, I think that was chicken, plantains, but it is so flavorful. And so that was an afternoon. And of course there's beer and rum there because every meal in Cuba has alcohol.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. This is also in Havana. So another spot a lot of people don't know about. And so I have shared a couple of times with people because it is a local favorite. My friends introduced it to me. Across from the Capitolio, there is this little tiny stand where you'll always see a lineup of Cubans. And she is serving like made to order congrejitos, which mean little crab. And what they are is it's a pastry and inside is guava jam. You could get like 20 of them for less than $1. And
Wow.
They just like melt. They're amazing. And it's just little things like that I like to share because I spend so much time in a place that I can really say to you, okay, yes, you're at this major tourist attraction, but if you just look across the street and you see all of these Cubans, like get in line there because that is like a real true local experience that a lot of tourists miss.
Go to where the locals eat. Exactly.
Yeah.
If there's a long line there, there's a reason for it. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
She is great too.
Oh, this is in Mexico. So this is actually in Playa del Carmen. And anyone who's been to Playa del Carmen, it seems like a really touristy spot. But if you kind of go outside the first 5 to 7 blocks, you start to get to where locals eat. This is a favorite spot of mine that I've written about a bunch of times. You see a lot of taxi drivers there and like just locals on their break, and they do a daily menu for lunch. And so this is like Jamaica juice. I think this one was like chicken and rice and like tortillas, and it might have cost me $1.50 for all of it. And so some people don't like Playa because they think it's too, like full of gringos. Yeah. And it is if you stay in the first 5 blocks. But if you keep going out, it actually has a lot of really great things because people who like work there need to eat somewhere. So this is one of the spots where they eat.
What's the, is this a soup or a sauce there with the spoon in it? Or do you remember?
I think that actually might be a sauce. It's probably some kind of like hot sauce or something. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Vietnam. So I think in Southeast Asia, everyone always talks about Thailand, but I really loved Vietnam. And the first day I was there, I was robbed. I was crossing the border over from Cambodia and got into Ho Chi Minh City. And because we had to keep taking off we had to keep taking out our passports and everything all the time, I just put everything in my side purse. And so I was with a boyfriend at the time, and these 2 guys came up on the sidewalk with a scooter and they cut it right off me. And like my passport was gone, like all of my cards, my camera was in there. It was actually a really crazy experience. I was shocked, and all of the people on the street were shocked too. And it ended up being an amazing experience because the people on the street, again, we could not communicate. They didn't speak English. Obviously, I did not speak Vietnamese. They like just stopped, like signaled for me to stop. And then they called someone. And then these 3 guys showed up on scooters that spoke English. And they said, let us take you to the police station, because if you go to the police station on your own, they're probably not going to file a report, but you can write it in English. We will translate it for you, and then you can get the stamp. So my boyfriend got on one scooter. I got on the other because I thought, well, I don't have anything left. So like, there's nothing else to steal from me. And they stayed with us at the police station for 2 or 3 hours because it was the slowest process. And then it was great because I went to the Canadian embassy. Yeah, it was the embassy. And that was back in 2007. So still kind of early days of, I didn't have a smartphone or anything. This is still like internet cafe times. And the embassy would write me every day to let me know the process. And then by the time I got up to Hanoi, I had a new passport. And it was just number one, I learned if you get robbed and your passport is stolen, not a big deal. Like, you can work it out. But also just the generosity of people. And that what happened to me apparently happens all the time in Vietnam. So I also wrote about that later on, just to remind people, like, don't think if you have like a side purse thing on that you're safe, because you're not. And don't carry your passport on you. Leave it at your hotel. That's like safest spot for it. Anyway, I loved Vietnam. I know that people are a little bit more reserved than, say, in Thailand, but I really loved the food. I loved the people. And I found in a lot of ways it reminded me of Ecuador, where people will go to Ecuador after Colombia and they're like, oh, they're so rude. Like, they're not friendly. They're just more reserved. If you smile at them or try to engage with them, I find that it is reciprocated. You just kind of have to make the first move. So
the power,
one of my favorite spots for sure.
The power of a smile. It really does.
Yeah.
Work. It really does. Okay, there's two shots here, and I know I can tell with a Cuban flag over here, so this must be maybe this is your office. I don't know.
Oh, I wish. No, my office, because in Cuba to get internet, you have to pay for internet. There's no free internet there, so I usually have to go to a hotel to work. This is at the Revolution Museum in Cuba, which sounds like it would be so cool, but this is the best part of it, is they've got a photo opportunity. Otherwise, it's just like newspaper clippings on walls and not very interesting at all. If you're interested in Cuban history, Netflix has a series called Cuba Libre, which I think is very unbiased. It shows a balanced view of kind of both sides and takes you through Cuba's history from like when the Tainos were there from South America for many years, and then the Spanish came and basically killed them. So I really like that. If you like history, it's a fantastic one. And then on the right is actually another tourist hotspot where I went somewhere good to eat. So this is in Cozumel, which I think is probably, they try to say that it's like a low-key Playa del Carmen, but I find it's really obnoxious. Except if you go, 15 blocks out, you can find out where locals on the island live. And so this was a taco spot that I went to, and my mom and aunt came to visit me. And so they actually took a picture of me, which was nice, because a lot of times it's hard to get pictures of myself places. So
right, solo travel, yeah.
Spot. Yeah, like you've got to like figure out how like remote shutter and yeah. Anyway, so it's nice sometimes to travel with people who will take your picture. Oh, and then we're back to Cuba.
Actually, we've got a big holiday coming up, and I'm just wondering what you're planning on doing.
This. I see. Well, I don't know if I would fit into that Rainbow Bright costume anymore, but if I did, that would be amazing, and I would absolutely go as Rainbow Bright.
Okay. Halloween, I couldn't resist. This photo is on Bacon is Magic. You were talking about Halloween. There's actually a video where you make these mummy cookies of some sort. That's on.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So there's, you got to go to, and I'll post, this everybody who gets this, who's on today, and then a lot of people are probably watching this on the replay. More people will be watching it on the replay. So check the links below. You're going to see links for Bacon is Magic website, all of the Ayngelina's social sites, including her YouTube channel. So you can see these videos, learn how to cook things, subscribe to her channel, and enjoy that. But almost Halloween and election day.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we get all of the news up here, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope, let's just let it happen.
Yeah, right. We can't dwell on it. As I said at the beginning, we've had, I don't know, it's like almost 50 million people have already cast early ballots.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's a lot more than 2016. I mean, a lot more. I mean, certainly a number more, but a lot of people will go out on the day, November 3rd, which is Tuesday next week, and it's everything from your local elections. Like here in San Diego, we've got a election this year, and a lot of California. We have a lot of propositions that can affect how government and business will run in the future. So it's it's our most important, I think, right that we have as citizens of our countries is to actually vote and let your voice be heard. So, for
Absolutely.
sure. I did and this is kind of a little thing. I want to because we love bacon, and I like how you opened this up today about how you can just add a little bit of pancetta, some prosciutto, or some pork to anything, and it's going to make it better. And and in that sense, it has magic properties. I happen to be did a television show, a pilot for a television show for Travel Channel and Cooking Channel down in. We chose to do it in Baja. This is directly related to bacon, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video.
My name is Allan Karl, and I like to keep moving. I'm an author, adventurer, and global food explorer. I've ridden through 75 countries so far, and I'm not stopping until I've been to them all. This is crazy! I'm on a quest, searching for the most unique food. Come, ride with me. Antonio isn't just talk. He's actually given young chefs a platform of his own creation, Telefonica Gastropark. Hidden in a commercial district, it's food truck heaven. Except here, the trucks never leave. These chefs are innovating and reinventing classic Mexican food. This is the new Tijuana, and I've got the appetite to dig in and try it.
Look, okay, look at this.
But look at this. So this is a tuna from Otto, and this is some homemade sausages.
Is this not a pocket of wonder?
Look at that.
Wow, that is good. It's got just a little bit of a kick to it, too.
Yeah. Allan, he's the creator of the bacon sausage.
Oh, this is a bacon lover's dream. There's no guessing here.
It's just bacon, smoked sausage, bacon candy on top, or ciabatta bread, so it's good.
Bacon on top of bacon on top of bacon.
That's amazing.
You know what? When we're able to cross the border again, and the next time, since you love it, Tijuana. It was another one of those places. Like, come on, border towns, just drive through. You want to get elsewhere, and Antonio, who was sitting there with me, he's kind of the mastermind between this. Instead of making food trucks, these young chefs all over the world. You've met many of them as you traveled. They don't have the capital and the money to open a restaurant, all the overhead that goes with that, the bureaucracy. So here, a food truck, but then create like a food court of food trucks.
Yes.
That's what they've done. And there is a little a craft brewery inside there as well. And it's a really cool place, just over the border in Telefonica, and not on the Avenida Revolucion, the big kind of tourist area, but it's off in a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So that's my bacon is magic kind of.
I mean, I love Mexico. My aspiration is to retire there. When I can settle down more than now, it will be to live in Mexico. I just think quality of life, quality of food, ability, because I, grew up on the water. I would like to be on the water. I'm sure you feel that as well when you're not on the water. Like there's just something missing, that it just doesn't feel right. And so I feel like Mexico kind of has the best of all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those places. And and you shared with us that story about being robbed, and it actually turns out to be, it may be a pain going through it at the time, but it's amazing how it can be a good story later, right? And I always have people who travel. There's a lot of fear in for Mexico, particularly because of the cartels and the number of that. And I remind people that really it is a safe place, as long as you are prudent and smart. Don't walk around like thinking everybody's going to out to get you. You just have to have the right attitude and just enjoy it and take in the scenery and but be prudent, be smart, right? I mean, that's it.
I think in most cases, people ask me about it. I don't do anything that really puts me in contact with like anyone from the cartel. I tell people, like, if you're, not into gambling, drugs, prostitution, then you're probably not going to run into anyone really that's going to give you much trouble. And even in cities like Playa del Carmen, the cartel kind of runs that town, so they don't want anything to happen to tourists because then their business goes away.
Yeah, good point. You know, we usually try to keep these to an hour, but this has been so good. I want to, before we leave, we got one more video to play because I love that you actually took well, explain to us about the Maharajas Express.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about this.
That was an amazing trip. So 2 years ago, I was invited to take the Maharaja Express, which is the luxury train in India. I had never been to India before. I'd always wanted to go, but I had heard that people either love or hate India and they find it overwhelming. And so I just kept putting it off, thinking I need to have more energy to go. But then when this opportunity came to take a luxury train where there are 2 dining cars, 2 cocktail, 2 like bars, and then you have your own room that has a butler, and they were going to fly me over to experience this, and you go to all of the major sites. Like, how can you say no to that?
Right.
So I went, and it was an amazing once in a lifetime experience. I really loved it. And then I stayed in India longer, and then also did some independent travel. And then also went down to the south to Kerala, because I also felt like that unique luxury experience was amazing, but like not a true representation of what India was, but it was like a good introduction. And so it was incredible. I still, you know, the person who was my butler, were like friends on Facebook, and it was just a really wonderful experience.
Well,
all of the things that people said about India were true. It was just amazing.
Well, let's look and see Ayngelina in the Maharajas Express.
I've been in India now for 3 days, and it's been building, and everyone's ready to get on the train. A really great group of bloggers to spend the next 7 days in India traveling around. This just feels like such an epic trip, and everyone is so excited. This morning we woke up at 6:30 to go out to a national reserve. We saw lots of boar, peacocks, monkeys, antelope, lots of animals. It was actually really great to actually be out in the wilderness. So we finally made it to the Taj Mahal. There are a lot of monuments I've seen over the years, and they can be a letdown, but this is one of the few that I've seen that is as beautiful as you could expect. So right now we're in the Imam in Lucknow, and an Imam is not like a mosque. It's not where people pray, but it's actually where people gather. But it's gorgeous here. Like, such a beautiful building. Last night on the train, it's been an amazing week, and tonight we're having an Indian night, and they've actually outfitted us in saris. I can't believe that people put this on themselves, because it's very complicated, but also it's so comfortable.
Yeah, looks like a good experience for sure.
It was amazing. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. And good for you for taking time outside of that to see the other side of India. There's a guy who's actually my first guest on the Journeys webcast. His name is Ronnie Borgiato. He's South African. I met him when I was traveling over in Malawi and Tanzania, and he was just on a short trip. He had just gone through a divorce, life-changing things, and he had been thinking about doing a little African, 4 or 5 country trip. And after meeting me, he got inspired. He decided he wanted to ride around the world. And he ended up doing 4 years, 100 countries, 100,000 miles. I've never been to India yet. And it's a great, go back to the very first, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's the webcast Journeys episode number 1. But one thing he said, he went to India. Now he's South African, and he's, probably in his 50s now. So he probably was in the late 40s when he was going through India. But he said India is not a name of a country. It's actually an acronym, INDIA. And I said, oh, really? I didn't know this. I haven't been there. What is INDIA? And he looks at me with his sincere eyes, and he says, I'll never do it again. As you said, some people either love it or hate it. It's
very polarizing.
Yeah, because it's very crowded. There's no sense of personal space. And I'm saying this from what I've read. I haven't been there, but you obviously saw 2 sides of it. How you can 5-star it, and then you get really deep in there. Mm-hmm. Before we wind this down, Ayngelina, I'm as a traveler. But rediscovering your own backyard, and really without any idea of when. And as Canadians are a little bit more welcomed in the world at this point, because you guys have managed the virus a lot better than we have here in the United States. But so 2 questions for you in the end. Why it's so important to look at your own town, your own city, your own country, and what you can learn from that. And then the second, come back after that and say, what do you hope? What will be the first thing you do once you've really, truly, and the world has been liberated from this crazy thing?
Well, in terms of the reason I wanted to explore my own backyard in terms of Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada is that there were so many businesses that were hurting and needed help. And I think you can be really complacent, and you don't see what you actually have where you live. And so a lot of these places that I've been going to, especially in Yarmouth, or I just got back from St. John, New Brunswick, people were in those cities and saying, where is this place? And so they were actually places in their own town that they hadn't heard of. And so not only was it an opportunity for me to have that experience of my own personal knowledge of having these experiences in different towns, but also being able to share it with other people and to encourage people to go out and do different things, which has been this project right now has been the most fulfilling for me, because I've had so many businesses write me and say, so many people have come in and because they saw your video, or people will take pictures and they'll send it to me saying, hey, I went to that bubble tea place because I saw it on your video, and it was fantastic. And so that has been really the most rewarding, because I feel like everybody wins when you kind of engage in that rediscovery of your hometown. And then when will things get better? I don't know. I have so many people ask me when Cuba will open up, and it's already started to open up. Americans can't fly there right now because U.S. law right now is that you can only fly into Havana, and that airport is not open, but I could certainly fly into other ones, but I've chosen not to. I'm kind of in a wait and see mode, but in 2021, I actually would like to do a bit of a reunion tour. So I obviously will go back to Cuba, but I would like to also visit my favorite countries. So I would like to go to Nicaragua, which I was supposed to do in April, but missed that. And then I would like to go see Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, but I think I might only have time for Ecuador. But if I could see Cuba, Ecuador, Nicaragua, that would be a very successful 2021 for me. But, I don't like to really make plans or look ahead, or people will say, when are you going to travel again? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to be in this moment and enjoy this moment and try to use it to the fullest. I did a 30-day splits app. I just was talking about buying some winter skates to go skating. And so just trying to enjoy and rediscover things. And so instead of thinking about, where I'm not, I'm not in the sun, I'm not on a beach, but I am in a really great place. And so I just want to look back at this time when it's all over and think, wow, I really used it to the fullest.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last thing, for all of those would-be, soon-to-be travelers, from a life that you've had on the road, what would be your top tip or tips for a would-be traveler?
Oh, I would say for those that are afraid to travel, you don't have to go far. You don't have to, make Mexico the first place that you go. You could go to another province or state. You could go somewhere that you haven't been before. Or also, you could go to another country that speaks your own language. I went to New Zealand. It was amazing. But it was very easy to travel because there was not that language barrier. So I think those are all easy ways to dip your toes in, rather than saying, like me, like I'm going to buy a one-way ticket to Mexico and I don't speak Spanish. I don't know why I did that, but that's everybody.
Huh. And whatever happened to the boyfriend? You ditched him too.
Yes, he is married and has 2 kids.
Has 2 kids.
So it works out for everybody. Everyone's happy. Yeah, it's worked out all along. I mean, in the end, now, you can always look back at relationships and realize that was never going to work out. So I think, we can both look back at it and think, that was probably for the best.
Yeah. Well, so things tend to have a way of working out. There is a little bit of a path that somehow is paved for us. I think that we sometimes don't recognize it, but we certainly find ourselves on it. I'm going to play a quick little closing video and say goodbye at the end of this. Thank you for tuning in to the JOURNEYS Webcast. I'm Allan, Karl, your host. Be sure to tune us in every Monday. The time changes depending on where we are in the world. This is Allan, Karl, and where will your next journey take you? Hey, Ayngelina, this has been so great. I thank you. I know how busy you are with these new projects of discovering your backyard, but this has been a lot of fun, and a lot of people enjoyed this, and the replay will be up on YouTube soon enough. So
awesome.
Love you.
Thank you so much. I really had such a great time. This was fun.
Yeah, this is good. Okay, I'm gonna sign off. Be well, be safe, and I'll look for the next journey. I do want to ride the Cross Labrador Highway. I do really want to do that.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.